Hello and welcome to Ani's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Ghostly Innkeeper of Newport. Holly Arnold had read the stories. She'd seen the grainy photographs in old history books depicting the centuries old inn at the heart of Newport. The gilded anchor had stood for over 300 years, its timbered facade watching over the cobbled streets like a weary sentinel. Some called it charming. Others, those who dared spend a night within its walls, called it cursed. Holly was neither superstitious nor a thrill-seeker. She was a journalist. The editor of the Isle Chronicle had tasked her with writing a piece on haunted locations, and the gilded anchor was the crown jewel of ghostly lore on the Isle of Wight. People spoke in hushed tones of the innkeeper who had met a violent and mysterious end centuries ago and whose vengeful spirit had never truly left. She intended to separate fact from fiction. When she arrived, the air itself seemed heavier. The sky hung low with bloated grey clouds, and the salty breeze carried the scent of approaching rain. The inn's crooked sign swayed, creaking as if whispering an unseen warning. The moment Holly stepped inside, the warmth of the crackling fireplace did little to chase away the cold that settled deep in her bones. The current innkeeper, an elderly woman named Margaret Withers, greeted her with a knowing smile. "You'll be wanting room 3, she said, not bothering to ask Holly's preference. Holly arched an eyebrow. "Is that the haunted one?" Margaret chuckled, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "Some say so, others never say anything at all, because they leave before dawn." Undeterred, Holly took the brass key and ascended the narrow staircase. The hallway was lined with antique oil paintings, their subjects frozen in time with unreadable expressions. Room 3's door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing a space both quaint and oppressive. The 4-poster bed loomed in the center, draped in heavy velvet curtains, and an old mirror stood in the corner, its glass warped with age. She set down her bag and began her investigation. Local records detailed the story of Thomas Bellamy, the original innkeeper who had been found dead in the basement in the 1700s, his body twisted unnaturally, his face frozen in terror. No suspect had ever been named. Over the years, guests reported strange occurrences, footsteps echoing in empty corridors, whispered voices, objects moving of their own accord. Some even claimed to see Bellamy himself, his shadow lingering just beyond the reach of candlelight. Holly spent the evening gathering notes, recording audio, and snapping photographs. Midnight crept closer, and exhaustion tugged at her eyes. Just as she was about to turn in, a distinct sound echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. She held her breath, straining to listen. The floorboards outside her door creaked one after another, stopping just outside. Her shadow, faint but unmistakable, pulled beneath the doorframe. Then the doorknob rattled. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but she forced herself to stay rooted. "It's just the wind," she reasoned. "Old buildings settle." But when the whispering started, breathy and low, her resolve cracked. She grabbed her flashlight and flung open the door. The hallway was empty, yet the air crackled, charged with an unnatural energy. The paintings now hung at odd angles, as if something had disturbed them in passing. The floorboards beneath her were warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then the mirror in her room shattered. Holly spun back just in time to see the shards hit the floor. In their fragmented reflections, a figure loomed behind her, a man in a tattered waistcoat, his hollow eyes locked onto hers, his mouth stretched in a soundless scream. The candle on the nightstand flickered violently, and then darkness swallowed the room. A cold hand clamped onto her shoulder. She stifled a scream and whirled around, her pulse hammering against her ribs. The air smelled of damp earth, and a whisper, more distinct this time, rasped against her ear. "Leave." Her breath hitched. The temperature plummeted. Frost crept along the edges of the window pane, and her breath curled in visible wisps. She fumbled for her phone, the screen's glow illuminating the room, but the battery, which had been at 70% moments ago, now read 1% before flickering off entirely. A scraping sound came from the wardrobe. Slow. Measured. Holly's fingers clenched into fists. She forced herself to take a step forward, then another. The doors stood ajar, just an inch, revealing an abyss of darkness. Something shifted inside. Then it lunged. A blast of icy wind knocked her backward, slamming her against the wall. The air crackled with whispers, overlapping and frantic. Holly scrambled to her feet, heart pounding like a drumbeat in her ears. The door to the hallway stood open now. Had it been open before? She ran. She didn't stop to gather her belongings, didn't pause to check if something followed. Her feet barely touched the stairs as she bolted for the lobby. Margaret awaited her downstairs, offering only a knowing nod as Holly placed the room key onto the counter with a trembling hand. "Did you see him?" the old woman asked. Holly swallowed hard, her pulse still erratic. "I did." Margaret sighed, stirring her tea. "Bellamy doesn't like visitors who stay too long." Outside, the wind howled, and as Holly stepped onto the street, she swore she heard a whisper follow her. "Come back soon." Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.